Okay, so in these two videos we're going to look at managing bandwidth. So it's possible with the controller to set up multiple LANs, which we've talked about in other videos, but we can actually manage each one of those LANs or each of those LANs individually, but primarily we're going to talk about how we manage the bandwidth. So if you've got a guest network, for example, and you want to be able to offer Wi-Fi to those guests but a reduced bandwidth so as not to compromise the main network, then we're going to show you in these two videos how you do that. So it's quite a simple process. It's actually a four-stage process, some of which we've already covered. Okay, so stage one is to create multiple LANs, so which if you have a look back to the multiple LAN video, that will explain within the software how to do it. Each one of those LANs, let's say we've generated two LANs, which actually in that video we generated, I think we forced Ethernet 3 port to be LAN 2 and the rest of them remained as LAN 1. So we're going to use that as we've already set it up. We'll need to configure the DHCP for both LANs, which again is covered within the DHCP video, so have a look back at those. If you've not done those two processes yet, then obviously you need to go and do those first, and then once those two are set up and you've got your multiple LANs, then we're going to get on to the group control. So, and then eventually we will set an IP limit, and that will limit the bandwidth for a series or a group of IP addresses. So when we do get to that, we have to remember what we've set up within the DHCP settings because the two are linked. Okay, so managing groups. We touched on this briefly when we were in the group, the AC control group menu. So if you go back to AC control within your software and then click group, you might recall from the previous video that within this page, when it comes on, there we go, that we've got the WLAN group, which is the setting at the top of the page of that software. So again, we can create groups that eventually we're going to force certain APs to broadcast certain groups. So what effectively we're going to do now is create a main network and a guest network, just as examples, so that we can show you how we're going to actually manage the bandwidth. So I'm just going to do that now. You'll see it says default group, so unless you create a group, everything will go to the default group. So to create a new group, we're going to click on the plus just next to where it says default group, and up will pop up a window, and now we can go through the process of setting up the groups that we're going to use. So we need to call each group something, and that doesn't have to be the name of the wireless. So I'm going to call this one guests, just so I know that this is going to be the network that I'm eventually going to reduce the bandwidth to those guest users. I'm going to click next. You'll see actually at the top there's two tabs, one for both bands. Now you have got to populate both bands, even if you're only using single band access points. That's just the way the software works, I'm afraid. So I'm going to call it anti-ference guest. Alright, and then I'm going to encrypt it. I'm just going to use password for this. But you'll be guided by your client as to what those networks will need to be set up, I'm sure. So then we click next. I'm going to mirror the SSID and password for both bands. Now actually, in fact, the two APs I've got here are both single bands, so it doesn't actually matter for this case, but you do have to populate it with something, so it might as well be the same thing. Alright, now then, we click apply. So that's the first group done, and actually if we then click on the drop down box where it says default group, we'll see our guests group is there, and that's ready for when we're going to set our bandwidth restriction. Now you could stop there and you could just leave everyone else in the default group, and then that would be governed by what your SSID and password that were preset in the field just below, if you remember that from the last video. So in fact that's how we'll do it for the purposes of this, but you could set up multiple groups, and you can set up a whole series of these should you need to. Alright, so once we've set the group up, it's ready to go, and then once we set our IP limit, we can tag certain APs to broadcast that group, and I'll show you just quickly how you do that now, and then when we've done the IP rule, hopefully it will make a bit more sense. So if you click on members and then click management, and what you'll see in the middle here, you've got default group and a move group button. So all you simply need to do is, I know that my air, which one have I plugged in now? So the air 3 is plugged into ETH3, that's going to be my guest network, so I need to tag my air 3 and force it onto the guest broadcast. Yeah, hope that makes sense. So having a look back at the software, you click on the this select here, so you just tick the one. I can see it's an Air 3, it's obviously an awful lot easier when you've only got a couple of APs on there, and then you click the drop down box, click the group you want to send it to, and then click move group. And so what will happen now, and you can use this when you look at your Wi-Fi available networks or on a Wi-Fi analyzer, you'll see that the Air 3 is broadcasting anti-interference guests, because that's what the SSID I've set it to, and it'll have a password. And then the other AP that we've got in here, which we connected, which was the WAP-U, that will still be broadcasting. I didn't actually change mine from CFGWPOE, that's what that will be broadcasting. Of course, it will be broadcasting whatever you set yours to. So that does... It covers what we do with the groups, but that's only part of the process. So in the second part of bandwidth control, we're going to set up an IP limit, and we're going to limit a series of IP addresses that are being broadcast, that will be assigned via DHCP on LAN 2. So hopefully we won't get lost doing it, but have a look at the other video, and that will conclude the process for you. So thank you for watching.